Hello folks, how's it going? Hope you're all doing well. Everybody is here. Good, 17 of you, well done. Very nice, very nice. Very nice. How's it going, Ed? Scum, how's it going? Sergio, how's it going? Matthias, Mr. Awesome, Giddy, Flaming Neko. Seeing a lot of names I recognise in the chat, which is nice. Very nice. Hope you're all doing well. It is a very sunny day where I am. How's it like where you guys are? We will be doing the Alpha Legion today, yes. We will be doing the Alpha Legion today. Sorry, Narami? No, I don't support Liverpool. No, I support Everton. So it doesn't bother me either way. Fun fact is, my house is not that far from... Well, it is quite far from Anfield. No, it isn't. No. It's kind of near. But, yeah, I've been hearing them chant through the window, which is kind of weird. But, yeah. Yeah. I've always been of the opinion that I like Everton too much to hate Liverpool. Do you know, do you know what I mean? Other things to be getting on with in life. It's too short. Hey, Scum. Yeah, they will be right now. Yeah, train tickets to Liverpool right now will be extortionate because everyone's going to go in. Well, a lot of the people from the stadium are going to go into town to get pissed, aren't they? So, if you try and pay for it now, the prices are going to be really, really bad. Bring back the cold, I hate the heat, says Tubbleberry. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I quite like the heat as I get older. I don't know. I just prefer it. Sergio said, here in the Netherlands, all as well. Had another 1,000 point game, my Night Lords versus Custodes. I lost big time. Yeah. Sorry to hear that. I saw Warfare last night, very cold today. I've heard good things about Warfare. I might take the missus to see it in the week. Might take the missus to see it. We'll see. We shall see. Positive Geekery says, town is packed. Every restaurant was full when I was there before picking up Marines. It's because it's full of fucking tourists, man. The one thing that I will say annoys me with Liverpool is the sheer amount of dickheads it brings into the city. You know, the sheer amount of people who don't live here who come in and just trash the place every time. Town will be packed with people who don't live here, couldn't give less of a shit about the city. It's really annoying. No worries, Giddy, man. No worries. Femineko says, I can't stand heat. Definitely doesn't help. My job doesn't have AC. Yeah. It's one of the things that I miss about being in the States is that the cities are so big that if your team wins, it's not really a big deal. The city's so big, you can escape it. So if people travel into your city, like say the Chicago Bears won something, they're never going to, but say they did, for the sake of the argument, you know, and there was like a parade or lots of people like running around being really happy and stuff. If you didn't like American football, you could literally just go somewhere else in the city and you wouldn't hear a thing. You know, you wouldn't be anywhere near it. You'd be fine and you're still in the city. Liverpool's not like that. You know, it's not a very big place. You know, so if you get millions of people coming into the city, not millions, but like hundreds of thousands of people coming into the city, like, you can't move. Like, the whole place shuts down. It's fucking annoying. Now, the cool thing is, if not that Everton would ever win anything, but if they did win something, it would be better because you've got like most of the people who support them live here already. So you know they're not bringing in people from all over the world. You know, you'll have a busy day in town because there'll be a lot of people around that already live here, going out and having fun, kind of a thing. Whereas with Liverpool winning, you're going to get loads of people who don't live here clogging up every single road from here to Timbuktu. To be honest with you. Scum says, want to talk about tourists? It's almost the Edinburgh Fringe. Hell on earth trying to live here. Oh, I can imagine. So the Fringe is something that I would just not go to. Mainly because I've never... Stand-up comedy, right? I've never really got it. Like, I like it. You know what I mean? I think it's cool. It is an art form. But I just... you know... Mr. Ross from React says, the Eagles parade in my city had more than 2 million people show up in the centre city. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And Philadelphia isn't that massive a city either. You know. Absolutely. What is the population of Philadelphia? I think it's similar to Liverpool, I think. Or is it bigger? I think it's bigger. Population is 1.5 million. Okay, I think that is a lot bigger than Liverpool. One second, let me just see. Liverpool population is 500,000. So yeah, so imagine crowds the size of Philadelphia when they win, like 2 million people, whatever it is, right? Descending on a city that is meant to hold 500,000 people. Cheers, Ed, for the £5. He said, a friendly reminder to North to rattle the tin cup a tiny bit more, and my partner hates the heat. Her excuse is she's a Finn, and I'm from the north of the UK. Well, that's, Finnish people, they're used to colder weather. Positive Geekery says, is it me or are Everton the Grey Knights of football? They have their loyal fans who still recall when they were great, but now unfortunately do nothing. No, that's true. It's true. That's not even a... What people don't understand, right, when they say to me, Everton is shit, like, they tell me that like it's news. Like, I've not been living with it, like, for 35, 40 years, you know what I mean? I have this with my grandpa and my uncle all the time because they lived through a time when Everton were like winning trophies all the time, and they're like, why do you like not? Why aren't you bothered about Everton too much? Why don't you watch them religiously like we do? And I have to say, look, like you guys saw them win. All Everton have ever done to me is basically traumatize me. You know. Is what it is. Hey Kyle, how's it going, man? That's like the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Yeah, there's so many people in the city that the train broke. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know. Celebrate it and all that, but you know. It's been a bit of a lame season, really. Like, I'm fully congratulations to Liverpool and all that, but it has been pretty lame. Like, nothing. The relegation fight is already done. You know, everyone's already down already in the Premier League. You know, Liverpool have already won the league. It's pretty much just, it's kind of boring. I don't know. Hey Andrew, how's it going, man? How's it going? We will get into the law rewrite in a little bit, yeah. I'm not going to be here loads tonight because I've got loads of other things I need to be doing for tomorrow. But I did want to do the law rewrite now because I didn't want to wait another week. Kyle says, good man, quiet day with the baby boy listening to North. Feel spoiled. Cheers. Well, I hope he's not going to get any bad language from me. Because we are covering a Legion today that is, how do I put this? Aggravating to talk about? Kinda. They're kind of aggravating. I'm not going to lie. They are kind of aggravating to talk about. Like, absolutely. Like, they can be really annoying. We are, of course, talking about the Alpha Legion. Good boys, as things go. A really cool armor aesthetic. I really like them. But I figured, because this is the Alpha Legion, and we don't, you know, they are very secretive, they're very all over the place, this is going to be a Legion where I'd like you guys to take the lead. So I'm going to be here to adjudicate ideas, you know, and get things sorted out. But I'm going to have you guys take the lead with this one when we get into it in a few minutes. First of all, though, one bit of news I want to share is we are still accepting, not applications, but accepting, you know, people coming into Exile Fest. How many people do we have signed up for the tournament so far? Let's have a little look-see. We have we have 11 people signed up for the tournament so far. And that's just for the tournament. That's not just for the event. That's just for the tournament. And I think we've got one or two more people coming into the tournament too as well. So we do have a tournament. It is Exile Fest. It is at Just Play Games in Liverpool in the city centre on the 21st of June of this year. So just under 2 months' time, where we're going to be doing a tournament on the day with prizes for the top 3 ranked players. Those will be trophies, and every player who turns up, who plays in the tournament, will be getting a free box of Yorkshire tea, signed by yours truly. And of course, after that, we will be going on a night out in Liverpool to Diego's Demise and the K1 Metal Club to have some fun, some beers, and just generally have a chit-chat about the life, the hobby, everything going on, things like that. It's going to be a really, really fun time. I'm really looking forward to it. If you want to come along, then make sure you email your army of choice, if you're going to be using one, to northernexileevents@gmail.com. That is northernexileevents@gmail.com. I'll then send you your welcome packet, and it'll then be up to you to give me your army list, and you're ready to go. You do not, and I repeat, do not need to have an army to be going to Exile Fest. You do not need to have an army. You can just turn up. But I would like you to email me anyway, just so I can send you the welcome package, so you know when things start. You're not turning up to the store at odd times and hanging around like a bad smell. So yeah, if you can email me, if you're bringing an army, great. If you're not, just email me anyway, and just say, yeah, I'd like to come, can I have my welcome package, and you can have your welcome package. Yeah, that is coming up in June. Positive Geekery reminded me there to do that call out because he's painting his first claw for Exile Fest, so well done to you. Tom says, I love the Alpha Legion in the Alpharius Primarch book. They come across as a very practical force. Secretive, but for good reason, and an effective destabilising force. Cool. Narami says, damn, my first time in the UK, I came for Warhammer Fest. I wish I came for Exile Fest. Well, wasn't Warhammer Fest pretty good, though? I swear it was. Right? I swear it's pretty good. I'm hoping we can get 16 players. Nice and even numbers. It's like, you know, 8 games, away we go, sort of a thing. But we do have the whole of the upstairs of the venue booked. Okay, so, and it is a really nice venue. We have loads of gaming tables there ready to go. And we have a back room as well, which isn't really a back room, it's more of like a conference room filled with like books and games and things. So you can sit down and do board games if you want in the other room. And I'll be walking the hall, chilling out, talking to people. It'll be cool. It'll be cool. That's alright there, Amy. There'll be another time. If this Exile Fest goes well, I will do another one in another country, probably the US. So, we'll look into that when the time comes. So, all is not lost. Alright. So, getting back to the subject at hand, can anybody tell me a reminder of what happened to Alpharius in the Exileverse? Let me know. I've got an inkling, but I still like to, you know, get in there. What happened to Alfarius? I think he's dead. in all honesty, I think we did kill him at Istvan 3, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Or was it Istvan 5? Dropsack Massacre. Died on Istvan, okay. He died on Istvan, killed by Ferrus Manus. Okay, right, that makes more sense. Alright. Yeah, we gave Ferrus Manus a kill, didn't we? With Alfarius. Okay, cool. Excellent stuff. Alrighty. First thing I need to ask is, are we keeping the core tenets of the Alpha Legion? Alright, let me just put that in a poll. Are we keeping the core tenets of the Alpha Legion? Now, what do I mean by that? Okay. We know what the Alpha Legion are. They're secretive. They go in behind enemy lines. Right? Are we keeping the core tenets of what they do? If I remember correctly, the Exile verse, we had them turning to Tzeentch, right? Plots within plots within plots. They ended up falling to Tzeentch. Plots within plots within plots. Cheers, Jackson. Thank you very much. Tom says, I think their core tenets are cool, but it would be nice to cut back on some of the ambiguity regarding their loyalty and make them less silly in terms of how over-engineered their plots are. Yes. Yes. All right. I'm going to limit it to 10 votes. So there we go. There we go. We are keeping the core tenets, but yes, I agree. I think we should dial back a little bit on the memification of the Alpha Legion, right? Cut back on the whole Alfarius. Yeah, I am Alfarius thing. Yeah, exactly. Cut back on the memishness of it. They are really good infiltrators. They are really good at doing cult behavior and going in undercover to destabilize empires and stuff and spread things. Tear things down from within, right? But their plots within plots within plots within plots doesn't really... We don't lean into it too heavily, right? We don't let it become a meme. Because the thing with the Alpha Legion is, they can become tiresome to the point that you're literally just sitting there going, why should I even bother caring about you? Because I don't know what your motivations are. If I don't know what your motivations are, who gives a shit, right? So, first question though, apart from that one... What is the homeworld of the Alpha Legion? And why were the twins sent there? What is the homeworld of the Alpha Legion and why are the twins sent there? Now, because we are dialing back on the utter stupid amount of secrecy that the Alpha Legion are involved in, we can reveal where they're from, right? Dirdu says, he never left Terra. He's still in the test tube. Only able to experience the outside world by possessing one of his legionaries. Fuck, dude. That goes hard. Dude, that goes hard. I like Dirdu's... That's a really good idea. That is a really good idea. What do we think of that? Right? What do we think of that? One twin is on Terra. Test tube. Controls. Legionaries. When I say one twin, we know that there is already a twin in the galaxy because he dies on Istvan, right? He actually dies on Istvan. But I really like the idea of the other twin still being on Terra. He's still in a test tube. He's a fully grown Marine, but he's just floating there in amniotic fluid. And he's just sitting there, right? And he's the one, he takes over the minds of certain legionaries. Okay? And maybe he's loyalist. That'd be pretty cool. Scum says, I think there should be a mix of the CIA and KGB in the way they operate. Yeah, cool. Test tube and why not a dreadnought? It'd be too tempting to put him out there, you know, and he's walking around, you know. This way they can keep him under wraps. Ahaha! I have an idea. Right. I have an idea. Okay, got our 10 votes there. I have an idea. Alright, so we have Alfarius and Omegon, right? Alfarius is the one outside. He's the one walking around. He's the one who was in his test tube, his gestation pod, flying through the galaxy, right? I like the names of Hydratus Prime and Hydratus Secundus, right? And why don't we do what Mr. Awesome said? The planet is a former asylum planet that focused on mental conditioning like MK Ultra, right? So this is a place with like a really Byzantine court system where Alfarius lands, and he's in there, and he gets taken in by one of the main ruling families, and ends up controlling the entire world from the shadows, right? He's a shadow emperor, essentially, of Hydratus Prime, right? On the flip side of that, we have Omegon, who is still on Terra, still in his test tube, growing up in his test tube, who is psychically communicating and taking over the bodies of Alpha Legionaries, of legionaries of the 20th Legion, of his own gene seed. And so he's basically leading them by proxy, right? That's why they say, I am Alfarius, right? Because he takes on the role of Alfarius. In fact, why don't we swap them around, right? So we'll have Omegon being the one out in the galaxy, and we'll have Alfarius, you know, the beginning, he's on Terra. So he's the one in the gestation pod, right? So when the Alpha Legion say, I am Alfarius, that's because they fucking are. whenever somebody... people don't say it all the time, like they do ad nauseum in 40k. In our Alpha Legion, when somebody says, I am Alfarius, they're saying it because they mean it. Because it's literally Alfarius taking over the body of a Legionary going, hello, I am Alfarius, right? So Alfarius is still on Terra, and Omegon is out in the galaxy ruling Hydratus Prime as a Shadow Emperor, right? Andrew says he's still inside the other twin conjoined. That could be cool. It's a bit... We're getting a bit into the weeds there. The reeds. I don't like to do that too much. Sergio Coolhass says, I like the idea of a Black Ops Legion. That's basically what we're going to be building, yeah. Mr. Awesome React says, we can try to have the Alpha Legion also focus on mental conditioning as a way to take over planets, like subliminal messaging type things, like Project Montauk. That's cool, yeah. Chris Barkhausen says, Alpha Legion should have natural blanks within them as well. Yes. The thing is, though, Chris, if there are natural blanks, I think our Alfarius would purge them because he can't take over their bodies. Do you know what I'm saying? You know? So I think they'd be purged. Jackson says, the prototype experimental Primarch that was supposed to be a secret. Yeah. 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 Like Total Recall, that dude on the man gut, remember? Yeah, 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 yeah. Ugh. Tom says, I would like it if the Legion originated on Terra as one of Malcador's projects. Their whole modus operandi matches his very well. Right, okay, right. I have an idea that's controversial, right? We've settled on this idea of one Primarch being on Terra and one Primarch being in the stars, right? Do we want Malcador to lie to the Emperor, to tell the Emperor that Alfarius is dead? Right? And then he psychically shields Alfarius, so even the Emperor doesn't know that Alfarius is alive, because that means he's actually a really good, you know, really good operative. You know, even if your own side doesn't even know you exist. Do you know what I mean? I think they did, Alejandro, yeah. He needs bloodless revolutions using the whole mental conditioning thing. That could be cool. Yeah, I like the sound of that. Chris says, and flaws in the training is what allows Chaos to slip into the Legion, and why they all think they are Alfarius. They're going crazy like the Unibomber. Maybe. Make them triplets. I'm not doing that. We'll be here all night. That's a very Malcador thing to do. It is. It is. Well, the thing is, Tom, so he says, no, I like the idea of Big E and Malcador trusting each other totally and not keeping any secrets. Underrated bromance. Okay. Here's the thing. Okay. I agree. But I think, what if Malcador looks at the Alpha Legion as, you know, this is for your own good? The reason why I'm not telling the Emperors is for the Alpha Legion to actually work at the level I want them to work. Even he can't know about them. Do you know what I mean? So he doesn't see it as keeping secrets. He sees it as him doing his job. Do you know what I mean? That's what Malcador says. He's like, no, I'm doing my job. Like, I'm protecting the Emperor even from himself. Right? If he knows about Alfarius, he'll try to meddle. That's what the Emperor does. If he knows about Alfarius, he'll try to tell Alfarius to do things. And that's not going to work. Because Alfarius is too much of a free spirit. Do you know what I mean? Maybe even we put some of Malcador in the gene seed of Alfarius. Of the Alpha Legion, right? Maybe put some of his DNA in that gene seed. You know? Tancy says, I like the still in the tube thing, but also like the blurb I wrote on the Discord about how he unwittingly falls the Zinch, and how his consciousness is split each time he dies. Yeah, that'd be cool. Jacob says, maybe Alfarius and Ermegon are based on Malcador's DNA. Yeah, we just said that. That could be Malcador's first attempt at the Inquisition. Malcador the Milkman. But still, though, you see what I mean? You see what I mean? Yeah? You see what I mean? Okay. So our second vote. I think we're landing on the dual question. But does Malcador keep the Alpha Legion from the Emperor for the Emperor's own good protection? And what I mean by that is, you know, Malcador literally says, if you get in the way of these guys, they can't protect you. Like, you need to not even know they exist. They're the Men in Black, right? If the government knows about the Men in Black, they will try and get involved. They'll try and tax them. Do you know what I mean? To be able to unilaterally protect the Emperor from anything at all times, you need independence from the Emperor to act as you will. Do you know what I mean? I think this is something that... And we can also throw in Malcador's DNA into this too, right? So Malcador knows it's basically a legion based on his DNA too. So he needs them to be, you know, independent. They're utterly loyal to him, you know, and, you know, that kind of a thing. Andrew says, is Malcador the real power in 40k? He does a lot in the background, like making the Grey Knights and stuff. He does a lot of things in the Exile verse. Yeah, he does. Chris says, it's like how Clark gave Batman Kryptonite in the event he ever went bad. Malkador has set a fail-safe plans if anything goes wrong with Big E. That's also true. Yeah, that's also true. Like, we could even have the Emperor saying to Malkador, set a contingency in place. Should I ever fall, set a contingency in place and don't tell me about it. Put it in a part of your mind that I can't see or get to. Right? That's what I want you to do. So, Malkador says, okay, well, one of the legions didn't... Yeah, one of the Legion's batches went bad and they all got destroyed in this world somewhere. So, obviously, Alpha Legion aren't a thing anymore. Emperor goes, right, that's terrible, but, you know, so what? Moving on. As the Emperors want to do. But really, the Alpha Legion aren't dead, right? The Alpha Legion are maybe 100 to, 500 Marines left with the 2 Primarchs. Malkador shields them, mentally shields them away from the Emperor, and gives them their orders, right? And their orders... We can stop that now, can't we? Yeah, 14 votes. So what if their orders are to infiltrate the enemy? Because Malkador knows Chaos is out there. The Sigilite knows Chaos is out there. He knows it's on its way. He knows eventually it will worm its way into the heart of the Imperium, right? So maybe the ultimate task of the Alpha Legion is to infiltrate Chaos. To infiltrate the infiltratable, right? So, main task of the Alpha Legion is to infiltrate Chaos. Track their movements. Its movements. Early warning system. So, the main crux, the main mission of the Alpha Legion that Malkador gives them is to infiltrate Chaos, to track its movements as a kind of early warning system of, oh, whoa, 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 you know, what's going on here? They infiltrate every Legion with their own Marines too, just to check on them, to see what's going on, blah, blah, right? Now, I have an idea from turning traitor. You know when a double agent goes too far and literally becomes enamored with the other side, right? That kind of a thing. Yeah, so the Alpha Legion start to look for Chaos to join it. And they do, because they're loyal to the Emperor and they're trying to track its movements, they're trying to keep an eye on it, right? Maybe even destroy it from the inside. What if Omegon, who is the Primarch who is out there in the galaxy, goes too far and actually is corrupted by Tzeentch, right? Because he tries to outplot Tzeentch. He infiltrates Tzeentchian cults and, you know, forces and things like that. He sees the Horus Heresy coming, and he thinks, you know, I can stop the Horus Heresy by falling to Chaos and making sure that Chaos doesn't win, blah, 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 without realizing that he's the one being manipulated the entire time. The ultimate in, you know, your main strength becoming your main weakness. How do we feel about that? And with him turning... basically, as a double agent who has gone over to the other side, right? With him turning, is that what breaks the Alpha Legion in two, right? It breaks them in two. We'll end that poll there, because it's 100%. So, let's start this. Omegon tries to outplay Tzeentch, ends up falling to Chaos with majority of the Legion. I think that's a very Alpha Legion thing to do, to be so arrogant that you think you can actually outplot the Chaos God of Plots. Do you know what I mean? Like, it literally, you know... Chris says, but he's not Chaos, he's just manipulated by it. Him turning isn't tragic as much as him thinking he's doing the right thing. Yes, exactly, yeah. Hunter says the Alpha Legion should be a failsafe for the other legions. True, very true. Tom says, I like the idea of there being two elements of the Alpha Legion, one being loyal and one being traitor. Yeah, we do have that. Durdu says, Alfarius, or now Omegon, dies trying to pull Ferrus out of Istvan. Alfarius could turn when he tried to possess Omegon to get him out and feels him die. Yeah. Matthias says, in his strive to master subterfuge and learn the secrets of all, Alfarius falls to Tzeentch. The Lord of Change leaves breadcrumbs amidst the secrets of others that Alfarius starts to connect. Okay. Matthias, he says, believing there is an overlying conspiracy, with each breadcrumb found, Alfarius is bound tighter and tighter to Tzeentch's will, eventually becoming his keeper of secrets. Okay, now, here's the thing. Omegon is the one who dies on Istvan, right? Okay, so Omegon is the one who dies on Istvan. He's the one who turns traitor, unwittingly. He turns traitor, right? Now, Alfarius, who is now on Terra still, he loses control of a lot of his legion. So he's kind of heartbroken in his little test tube, right? He's kind of heartbroken. So, what are the particulars about Omegon's death? Right? What are the particulars? We know he dies at the hands of Ferrus Manus. But how? What are the particulars of this? I agree, Tom. I think we are going to keep Alfarius in the pod as a loyalist and see how that works later. But how does Omegon die at the hands of Ferrus Manus on Istvan in the Dropsite Massacre? Does he die because he tries to get Ferrus out and unwittingly leads him into a trap? Right? Do you know what I mean? Because without him even realizing, he's serving the powers of chaos. Right? Wouldn't that be cool? I think that'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty awesome, I think. Do we do a death like Alfarius has in the real setting, where he thinks he can actually turn Ferrus Manus? He thinks with all of his schemes and things, he can actually turn Ferrus Manus, and he's mistaken, and Ferrus just chops his head off. I like that, Chris, yeah. Omegon goes to Ferrus Manus and does a Charlie from It's Always Sunny on his board, and Ferrus and his logic sees how he's been played and tainted. Yes, I like that. I like that. Yeah, the bluntness of Ferrus Manus is what makes Omegon realise what's been going on. He's been played this entire time, right? You know? Yeah. Absolutely. But maybe, instead of like Ferrus being, instead of Omegon being, oh, woe is me, I've been duped, maybe he respects Tzeentch. Do you know what I mean? Maybe he respects Tzeentch. Maybe he's like, wow. Wow. Like, you managed to do this to me? Wow, okay. Maybe this is a guy worth joining, right? That'd be pretty cool. So he goes up to Ferrus and they duel. And he says, no, I'm trying to get you out of here. I'm a loyalist, really. You know? Don't worry. You know? I am Alfarius. I'm a loyalist, right? Yeah? And Ferrus, in talking to him through this duel, they talk as they're fighting, he makes him see how Tzeentch has basically pulled the wool over his eyes, right? How much of a fool he is. But instead of Omegon being like, oh, no, I was a fool all along, oh. Instead of that, he actually goes like, wow, this Tzeentch guy is really fucking cool. Right? But in his heart of hearts, he doesn't really give it all to Tzeentch, because he knows one day I'm going to try and manipulate him. And Tzeentch plays one last trick on him, right? He basically withholds his power from Omegon, and that's what Ferrus kills him. Kills his mortal shell anyway, right? So Ferrus kills Omegon. But Omegon's spirit goes to the nearest Alpha Legion legionary, and he becomes kind of like Alfarius, right? A ghost in the shell, right? So you've got these two brothers who have their spirits passing from legionary to legionary, and the Legion just fights itself, just completely fight itself, because the guys who are on Istvan, who are on Chaos's side, quote unquote. Half of them are loyalists and half of them are too far gone in Tzeentch's clutches by now, right? So with Omegon's spirit passing to his legionaries, now all hell breaks loose, and half of the Alpha Legion realise that the other half are too far gone into Chaos, and turn on them. You go, right, I am Alfarius, I am completely loyal, these guys can go suck a dick, right? So the whole Legion rips itself apart on Istvan, right? How is that? I think that's cool. Flamineko says, I love that. Yeah, Tom says, so he loses his way. Yes, he does. Yeah. Chris says, I'd argue that without being able to return to his original body, Omegon starts forgetting himself. Yeah, that's true. Bit by bit, yeah. Yeah. Dirty says, I think it's funny to deny Tzeentch a Primarch. He had his hands in too many cookie jars and ends up empty-handed. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Matthias says, smart people outsmart each other and then themselves. Yep. Absolutely A1. Yes. Exactly. 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 So, I think going towards the end of the Alpha Legion story, are we keeping... Here's my thing, right? Okay. We've not really mentioned the Shadow Crusade against Ultramar, because this was all happening... That Shadow Crusade was happening in the background, okay? It was something that they were doing basically to make sure that Chaos thought that they were on their side, sort of a thing. And it's during that conflict with Rabute Guilliman that Omegon falls to Chaos without even realising it, right? So we skipped past that because we've already covered it in the Ultramarines video. In the Ultramarines video, we covered how the Alpha Legion sabotaged the realm of Ultramar from the inside. That was Omegon, and in doing so, he was doing it to make sure that Chaos thought that he was on their side. But also, he fell to Chaos during that time too. So we skipped over that for brevity's sake. But yes. So the actual end of this story, I'm going to pitch it now to you, and let's see if you guys like it, right? So so the Alpha Legion in our version of 30k and 40k is basically a very large warband of Astartes, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 each, right? Omegon Spirit controls 1, yeah, as this really weird sort of pseudo zeitgeist hive mind that's kind of lost itself and bled away over the centuries, right? And the other one is controlled by Alfarius, who is still in the black cells beneath Terra, right? Controlling the scant few legionaries he has left. And these two spirits are playing like 4D chess against each other, you know? Across the galaxy over, is the Imperium going to survive or is it going to fall, right? So technically, Tzeentch does have his Primarch in a much diminished way. But that's the Alpha Legion going into 40k and beyond. What do we reckon? We happy with that? The twins. Play. 4D chess. That's their ultimate fate. So the twins play galactic 4D chess against each other, plots within plots for the soul of man. That's literally what they do, right? So Alpha Legion players, I hope you can see that what we've done is we've taken what was a meme, what was very cringe, and we've boiled it down, stripped away all the meminess from it, made it cool, made it Black Ops, and injected some magic in there, some Tzeentchian magic, to make this a really tragic, cool, and everlasting story of spies counteracting spies in the 41st millennium. That's what the Alpha Legion should have been all along, in my mind, and I think this is a really amazing video to end the Exile-verse Legions on, because it's the shortest one, because it shows how good this group has become at laser focusing down on what's important in a faction and building it into something new that actually makes sense, you know? Tom says, so is Alforis the only active loyalist, Primarch after the heresy? He is, but he only has 2,000 Marines to his name, and he can only control those, and nobody really knows he's down there. So he's just on his own, down there. I mean, he's not... His mind's not there. He's actually leading Marines, right? He's actually looking through their eyes and leading them and walking around and stuff, you know? So even he doesn't feel himself in the black cells, right? His body's just there. Scum says, basically Cold War of the Legion. Yes, exactly. Cold War of the Legion. Good way of putting it. Matthijs says, all according to Tzeentch's design. Maybe so. Maybe so. Chris says, with Malcador's death, nobody knows he exists. Exactly. Exactly. Flaming Neko says, I could imagine this as those old spy versus spy cartoons. Yeah. Well, there's the thing, right? The Alpha Legion, it's so overdone in 40k. It's so fucking cringe. And overdone, overused, right? There are Alpha Legionaries actually in the soil of Terra, and at a command code, they'll rise up and kill the Emperor. Oh, fuck off. Do you know what I mean? Like, fuck off. Stupid fucking thing. How ridiculous. Yeah. Can you do one on Games Workshop prices so we can all make sense of it? Well, yeah, that comes in the week. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. But with that, I'm going to declare the Alpha Legion rebuilt. The last Legion of this series. 20 episodes. Every Legion from 30k rebuilt. I am insanely proud of everybody. This was a great process. When did we start this process? I'll go back. And we did one on the Grey Knights too, so it's more than that. When did we start this? It was a long time ago. We started 6 months ago. So 6 months ago, we started with the Emperor, didn't we? From what I remember. Yeah. We started with the Emperor. As you do. And then went into the Dark Angels 6 months ago. Wow. Wow. Yep. And then we went to the... We did the first and second Legions on the Dark Angels and went forwards from there. But I will be doing a nice playlist for you all on the channel. So if you've missed any, you can go back and see them. They will all be there, ready for you. Will we do the lesser chapters as well? I think so. Thoughts on the King in Yellow North? I've not read the Beckwin books yet. I've read little bits of them, but I don't have anything. I know it's Constantine Valdor. I think it's Dan Abnett sniffing his own farts again, to be honest with you. You know. Andrew says, I've watched you on and off for years, mate. Cheers, man. Time for the 100,000 plus rebuilding all successor chapter videos. Oh my god, yeah, can you imagine? So we are doing, I think I'm going to do a vote next time. In fact, to end this video, let's do a vote. What do we do next? Alright. So. Xenos races. Imperial Guard. Imperial Guard regiments. Successor chapters. Alright. What are we rebuilding next? Now, this will decide the next series that we do, right? The next series that we do. Can we rewrite the War of the Beast? If we do Xenos races, then yes, we probably will. Titan legions. There's always one. Wants a fourth thing in there. The Chaos Gods or Chaos as a force in general, rather than just the Traitor Marines, will be... So what I'm going to do with Chaos, right? What I'm going to do with Chaos, when we're doing the next series, every, like, couple of weeks, we'll throw in a Chaos God. Right? And what's going on with them. So that there'll be a break from what we're doing. You know what I mean? Custodians goes into successor chapters, even though they aren't a successor chapter. Technically, you know, that they come later on in the game, so... Tom says, Guard really don't need changing, in my opinion. I would argue they do. I would argue at some point, like, for instance, you know, how does a planet of, like 500 million people only have a standing army of 100,000, you know, just saying. You know, I would argue they do. When talking about the Chaos, will we talk about Vashdor? I love his character. Of course we will. He's Chaos. He'll be in there. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what was our longest Legion to do? Our longest Legion video was... in fact, in chat, without looking, don't look, right? What do you think the longest video was of this 20 video series of the Legions? Don't look, don't cheat. I'll know if you've cheated because it's not a really, it's not on, you know, one you'd think of. No, I want to say Raven Guard. Dark Angels, okay. Ultramarines. Iron Warriors, okay. Fulgrim, okay. Space Wolves. So the longest one that we have done was actually the Emperor's Children. It was Fulgrim. At 2 hours, 26 minutes and 53 seconds. Bet you didn't think that. The second most longest one was the White Scars. At 2 hours, 25 minutes and 35 seconds. Number 3 was the Dark Angels, 2 hours and 25 minutes and 10 seconds. So there you go. The shortest is probably going to be the Alpha Legion. In fact, no. The shortest is the Thousand Suns at 1 hour and 35 seconds. 1 hour and 35 seconds. We're already over that now. We're at 1 hour and 1 minute. So we're already over that now. But also, the Thousand Suns were half covered in the Space Wolves video. So it's not as if we were, you know, we had a lot of ground to cover. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that either. I wouldn't have thought it was the White Scars or Fulgrim. You know, especially White Scars. But I think the reason why the White Scars were so long was because there's no meat on the bones in actual 40k. So we had a lot of ground to cover, a lot of things to make. You know what I mean? Yeah. How much of those were us BSing other stuff about other stuff before actually starting? That's true. That's true. That's true. Very true. Absolutely. Right, let's end that vote there. Because even if we get 20 votes, which I wanted, it won't change anything. So, we will be doing Xenos races first. Alright. Now, what Xenos race are we starting with? Eldar. Orcs. Necrons. Tyranids. Now, just because there isn't a faction, if your faction isn't on here right now, right, it doesn't mean they never will be. It just means what are we starting with the first episode. These are the options I'm giving you for the first episode, alright? So what are we covering first? Again, if you don't see your favourite faction on here, it doesn't mean they're not going to be covered. It just means they're not going to be in the first episode. Are Grey Knights getting more models in 11th? I hope so, but I also don't, because I know the prices will go up and we'll get less models in the pack. So. Yes, it would. Eldar is Eldar. Dark or light, Eldar is Eldar. So yes, we would. So good. Eldar's winning right now. Would love to see you do a fantasy version of this. I don't know enough about it to rebuild it. Maybe once I've done some research, we'll do it. So I do like Warhammer Fantasy a lot. Would we include Melchior in the Necron rewrite? Well, yeah, he'd be in there. He'd be in there. Of course he would. We probably won't cover him too much because he's... To the Necrons, Melchior is a nothing. He's an amoeba. Do you know what I mean? They don't give a shit about him. But he will be there. He'll be mentioned in it. Yeah, sure. Eldar probably need most work, in my opinion. Then probably Nids. Maybe, maybe. 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 I intended that as well. Maybe when writing the character, I wanted to be hated by the Necrons. Pretty much cool. Please leave my beloved Drukhari as they are, perfectly twisted. Well, we're not going to change them to be good guys. You know. I doubt, to be fair, the Drukhari are so well done now, I don't think there's much we can really do to them. You know. Maybe make it a bit more on the nose that they like don't like Psychers and they don't like Tzeentch. You know. The worst thing about these videos is that I now want to start Alpha Legion and I don't have the time. Well, that's true. That's true. Orcs will be stupid fun. I agree. That's how they should be. Stupid and fun. Absolutely. Do one of the old ones, mate. That'd be interesting. Yeah, maybe. I'm going to follow the voting, though. So, 2 more votes are needed for me to call it, or I'm going to call it at 7 o'clock. One of the two. One of the two. Could we do the War in Heaven as an episode? If we're doing Eldar or Necrons, the War in Heaven will be covered. Quite simply. In fact, if we're doing Necrons, it'll be covered. If we're doing Eldar, they come a little bit later on, so they probably won't be there for that part. Maybe the very end of it. Well, yeah. Yeah, War in Heaven will be covered when we get to Necrons. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I might need to do some reading up on that, actually. The War in Heaven. Or maybe just watch that Lewithin video that he did on it back in the day. Probably just watch that. Alrighty, calling it there. We will be doing Eldar first in our next live stream. Alright. I am going to head off and get something to eat because I'm starving. But I love you a long time. I will speak to you when we're doing Eldar in a few, maybe next week or the week after. That will be a much longer stream because obviously we're starting a faction that we're building from the ground up again. So we'll be doing that. Alright. Love you a long time and I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.